over at Subscribestar or Buy Me a Coffee, the various other links. Thanks for everyone who's signed up over there. So Anna Kasparian, vagina enjoyers, or when the left leaves you behind, which a lot of moderate people or some kind of older left-wing people are experiencing now. Anna Kasparian is throwing the tea into the harbor. Yikes, Anna, touch grass, go outside, finger a woman, just yikes, bad take, friendo. That's what they always say. So she's advocating literal genocide for the BLT people. Anna, throw them from the rooftops. Kasparian, she's teaching them that, she's teaching certain men that gravity is 9.8 meters per second, but it's not a lesson they're going to learn for long. So Anna Kasparian says that women are more than just vagina havers. Yes, all this nonsense aside, it's why we already have words for men and women. They mean adult human males and females. We already have the language to describe the things in existence. It's a collection of sounds or letters that refers to things or concepts. That's how language works. It's irrelevant what you identify as. You're still a man or a woman. If I'm African and identify as Irish, it's a nonsense statement. So is identifying as the other sex. I don't think it's good for society to keep accepting beliefs that are not in accord with reality. At some point, we can admit that we have irreconcilable differences, and it's time to separate. Reduce the power of the Fed, have a 50-state model with enforced borders and state constitutions. Trying to make a society functional with so many different worldviews is a recipe for failure, which was the goal of diverse globalism the whole time. Diverse societies fail. It's better to start separating now and do it peacefully. And if you think I'm wrong with that, then, clue me in on some historical examples. And with all this stuff, I think what you're seeing with, I'm noticing with a lot of older leftists on Twitter, where they're starting to put their foot down on stuff, and it's more where people are like don't have as much to lose. They're already retired. They're not going to they can't get canceled, or they're starting to push back against this stuff. Like you saw with J.K. Rowling, and they discover like, oh, this the left wing is a direction. It's not a destination. So where we are now, where it's a far right wing value to protect children from groomers, and if you think that men aren't women and people should be allowed to form their own identity groups away from others, well, apparently now the left wing also believes that, which is friggin' fantastic. Robin DiAngelo, I think, just came out and said that non-Europeans need their own identity groups, and Scott Adams had said that Europeans need their identity groups. I totally agree. I've been saying this for years. Now, it's a perfect idea. Every group needs their safe spaces away from outsiders. All this forced diversity is not working. Trying to be all things to all people is just a way to fail. They always say to touch grass and put your fingers inside your girlfriend. That's like half the stuff you hear on Twitter, these trite, hackneyed, and overused phrases, and they just keep repeating them until they're just beat into the ground. For some reason, the left relates your value to your relationship with sex from a woman. Like a woman to them are only valuable for their ability to bring pleasure. The left has got some really deeply conflicting values when you actually examine them, when you try to pick apart their dogma, but nobody bothers to have discussions because they'll just censor or deplatform you or call you Hugo Boss and attack you violently. It's funny that all this stuff only goes one way, that men get to say that they're women, but nobody does it in reverse, because it's not that men will freak out if a woman tries it to enter a man's space or something, but nobody thinks she's a man. Guys would just stare at her and ask her, like, are you feeling okay? Do you need a cup of tea and a cookie? Is this like a hidden camera feminist thing, a TikTok video, or like is it just the time of the month? Did you break up with your boyfriend and you're angry? It's like something's going on, clearly. Guys just wouldn't accept, and she'd probably just get so frustrated, she'd probably start crying and just leave. Guys just can't accept this kind of stuff and move on because that's not how our brain works. We just can't accept it. And to be fair, men are not allowed to have separate spaces away from women anymore. The globalists made sure to stop that. Now apparently it's come full circle, and women are not allowed to have separate spaces either. Thanks, globalists. And if this is the straw that breaks the camel's back, and starts moving people back into affinity groups. So if you're on the left, you want to call them safe spaces, identity groups. The good. Men need their spaces, women need their spaces, different identity. However you want to self-identify, and you form your spaces away from other people. Yeah, that needs to happen. So the moderate in the far left is a location, but the far left is a direction. Yeah. This is why I clipped this statement, because this shows some of the logical construct with how they strawman everything. The far left is a direction. It's just an arrow that points further left. The far right can point to times throughout history. Maybe I better not name them, and say that, hey, this time period with this demographic and system has worked pretty well. We want to recreate that. The left can't do that because a commie paradise never existed. The right could set a goal of various countries at various time periods, and I'm editing on the fly, and say, hey, let's try to reattain that, which you could do very easily. But the left can't point to China, Russia, Cuba, Haiti, Southeast Asia, Latin America, and say, oh, let's try to recreate that. Because unfortunately, it was starvation and massive human rights abuses. It's funny, if you took a bunch of quotes and you presented them with left-wing people and you said, like, who do you think said this? What were their identity? What were their political values? and you gave them all these quotes. They go, oh, far right-wing, far right-wing. You go, oh, no, that actually came from Mao Zedong, Pol Pot, Papa Doc, Che Guevara, Fidel Castro, Stalin, Moses Mordecai, Levy, Engels, Trotsky, Bernstein, all the stuff they used to say about the BLT. Those are our leftist leaders. Weird. Well, we're just going to have to do things differently this time. Yeah, good luck with that. Anyway, it's funny. Historically, I think the far right, I want to say, has been more tolerant of BLT stuff. Is it more tolerant now? I don't know. Anyway, the left-wing values are toxic in actual practice. The Bolsheviks are evil demons from hell, and I don't even know if I'm saying that empirically anymore. And if they point to, hyperbolically, and if they point to the Scandinavian model of social programs in the 1960s, you got to remind them that it was European people. And people aren't fungible. The left thinks we're all just replaceable cogs in a machine, but we're not. We're not dollar bills. We're not cans of Coca-Cola. Those are fungible items. You swap one for the other. We're unique. We're unique. Billions and billions of cells and billions of years of evolution. So the right wing actually has many examples and goals of concrete things and times when right-wing values actually worked very well. They could easily recreate them, and as long as they don't invade Poland or anything, things are going to be pretty good. The left, and there's plenty of objective evidence to point to this. Don't say anything in the comments or it just gets the channel yeeted. The left is a direction to some vague Shangri-La that exists only in their imagination. So far, it looks like hurting children, removing their ability to reproduce or nurture their children, and making them wear dresses and dance on stage for the pleasure of adults. It looks like a fever dream, a waking nightmare, and it's not just me in my basement with my tinfoil hat or whatever. It's all actually happening. It's all actually happening. I mean, this nightmare is, I'm just back to the sports ball on TV. This external messiah will come and, no, nobody's coming to rescue us. It's you in the mirror. It's you. You're going to have to be your own external messiah in this regard, which is why I say it's a direction. And where does it end? How does the left know when they can stop going left? What are left-wing values? Because whether you agree with the left or let's get this up here, or not, they can point to, whether you're the right or not, they can point to specific examples throughout history and time periods, and they could say, hey, those are good societies, and that if we try to recreate that, if we get close to that, we can say we have arrived, and we can stop worrying about societal engineering and put our energy into advancing science or spirituality. If you ask, do you want to colonize the moons of Jupiter and do just the wildest crazy science fiction dreams? Or do these kind of first world pronoun problems? Listen, Hugo Boss, we can do both. No, you really can't. There's really only so much energy you have to allocate to things in a society. Where if you had all society pulling in one direction, and what one time America was briefly doing before about 1970s or 1960s, you can attain things that you just can't do things. You just can't do. Multitasking is going to just results in reduced focus and reduced energy. It's better to pick these things and focus on them very, very tightly. If you want to go to the moon, sorry, moon deniers, you got to focus on that. If you want to colonize Mars, you're going to have to focus on that. It's like it takes a group effort. And I mean, that ship has sailed for America. The America today will never attain what America of the 50s and 60s was on the path to attain. That ship, unfortunately, those that pathway has been erased from the space-time probability matrix. Anyway, so if you ask the right, like for an example, if adults should like marry under a certain age, they can come up with a line in the sand and they can enforce it. It might be, whatever certain age you could say for a girl, and you could say no more than 5 years. It would depend on the society. Like your agricultural society, you might need young people to marry. You might try to encourage young people to marry younger. More in advanced society, you can be a little bit older, but you don't want like older men preying on younger women. You can just come up with numbers that seem fair, and you may not agree with it, but they can set a law and just move on. The society will function just fine. But if you ask the left that kind of stuff, they can't come to a conclusion, because if they don't allow adults to marry 6-year-old girls, then they're not being inclusive. Nothing the left does works, because that is their goal, is inclusive. They try to be all things to all people. This is self-defeating. You can't run a society this way. It's game theory. The group with the greatest in-group preferences is eventually going to control the society. The right wants law and order, a clean, safe civil society. They want people who all want to live in a common set of societal standards. The left can't even achieve this because they're globalists who want to force different tribes together, even in the face of evidence that it clearly doesn't work, and most people don't want to do it. And so why are these people forcing this? It's time to focus on that. Except for the ruling classes. They get to live apart from the dirty masses. They get dachas in the country and limos. Oh, but that wasn't real communism. We'll do it differently. Yeah, but you can say that about any system. You can say that about the far right, which actually does seem to work in practice. A few minor tweaks, it'd be perfect for today, where the left can't say the same. In communism, all animals are equal, except some live together in six people in a 2-bedroom apartment, and the leaders live in 4-bedroom houses. So, not really. So Anna is learning that the left has no limits, and a society can't function if words had different definitions to different groups of people, which is where we are now, watching the collapse. A woman is an adult human female. A female bears the young, a male carries a seed. If bear young, then female, the if-then construct. But the left immediately strawmans the argument. They rephrase a construct into something you didn't say, so they can argue the thing you didn't say, not what you did, because they don't have a counter-argument to the statement you actually made. So what you're saying is, with the Jared or Jordan, whatever, the guy arguing with that English lady, Jordan Peterson or Jared Taylor and Jordan Peterson, one of those guys, was talking to some lady, and she kept rephrasing his argument with the "what you're saying" straw man. You're saying, like, what you're saying is I'm not a woman if I don't have kids. No, that's the straw man reconstruction. If bear young, then female. If carry seed, then male. No more, no less than that. I think it's safe to say that if a society allows a man to identify as a woman, or sterilize his children, or has children under the children under the age of consent, under the age of majority, where they can't consent to certain acts with adults, they can't engage in contract, and they can't engage in other acts by statute, by law, but you're allowing them to make these permanent decisions, or has children dancing on stage for the pleasure of adults, your society is sick and getting sicker. And I would say that it's headed for a civil war, but that's right-wing copium, because the best outcome would be a war. By right-wing copium, I mean, it's not counter-signaling, but it's like the right has a lot of L's too. I mean by that to say, okay, let's look at our L's and focus on them. Like the external messiah complex, this is a bunch of right-wing copium. It's like hoping someone else will come and make the important decisions. That's probably not going to happen, but it defers a decision. So the thing with the civil conflict stuff is, because a war implies agency, it means breaking out of the matrix and turning off the brainwashing from CNN and the government, actually talking to other humans and partying like it's 1773, actually finding the balls to throw the tea into the harbor. That requires turning off the brainwashing TV, throwing away the video games, the prawn, and the soy slop, bread and circuses, and taking agency instead of allowing the puppet masters to continue to make the rules. Anyway, I was as careful as I could make this video. This actually I had to do this over again, because the politically incorrect version is going to be on Odyssey, Rumble, and Bit Chute. Anyway, like, comment, subscribe. Thanks to the people over at Buy Me a Coffee, Subscribe Star, and Cash App. Someone said they donated on Buy Me a Coffee. They're like, I can only afford $5. It's like, I'm like, buddy, that's freaking awesome. that is freaking awesome. Don't ever feel bad for that. Anyway, I will see you guys all next episode.